All right, so today we're diving into a story about a small plot of land. But this wasn't just any land, it was the testing ground for a revolution. We're talking about Tolstoy Farm, an experiment in simple living that, believe it or not, would go on to change the entire world. And that really begs the question, right? How on earth did a small 1,100-acre farm in South Africa become the testing ground for one of history's greatest movements? I mean, think about it. A humble farm just outside Johannesburg becoming the very crucible for a movement that would free a nation of millions. Well, to find the answer, we've got to start with the core idea that built the whole thing. Okay, so first things first, we have to see Tolstoy Farm for what it really was. It wasn't just a place on a map. No, it was a living, breathing laboratory for a truly radical new idea. So, back in 1910, this place was founded as Mahatma Gandhi's social and political experiment. He actually named it after the Russian writer Leo Tolstoy, the guy whose ideas on simple living and nonviolence were huge influence on him. And look, this place wasn't just some commune, it was a full-on training ground, a place to test the core principles that would eventually define his entire struggle for India's freedom. And it wasn't a small thing either. It was a thriving community. At its peak, the farm was home to more than 70 people. We're talking men, women, and even children. And they called themselves Satyagrahis, which basically means practitioners of nonviolent resistance. So you see, they weren't just living on a farm, they were living out a philosophy, day in and day out. So you might be wondering, how did they actually pull this off? How do you take these huge, lofty ideals and turn them into a daily reality? Well, it all boiled down to 5 core principles that guided pretty much every single action on the farm. Okay, so these 5 principles, they were the absolute bedrock of the whole experiment. Take Satyagraha. That wasn't just about protesting injustice on the outside. It was also an inner struggle, against your own anger and greed. Self-sufficiency, that was a powerful political act of independence. And then you had things like simplicity and chastity, which were all about disciplining yourself to focus your energy on the bigger picture, the greater good. And this is really where the rubber meets the road, where the philosophy became super practical. Frugality wasn't just about saving a few bucks. It was a deep moral and political choice. I mean, instead of buying goods that propped up the colonial economy, they just made their own. They hand-ground their own wheat for bread. They roasted and ground peanuts for homemade peanut butter. They even learned how to make their own simple leather sandals to get around on the thorny ground. Incredible, right? And this idea really says it all, doesn't it? For Gandhi, none of this was just theory from a book. No way. Tolstoy Farm was his greatest teacher. It was the lived experience that proved his philosophy wasn't some abstract, pie-in-the-sky ideal. It was a real, workable, and powerful way to live. Now, let's talk about the people, because this was maybe one of the most radical parts of the whole experiment. The farm was a deliberate mix of different cultures and faiths. It was specifically designed to ask the question, is real unity actually possible? And you can see here the residents were literally a microcosm of India itself. You had Hindus, Muslims, Parsis, and Christians, people from different regions like Gujarat and Tamil Nadu, all living and working together side by side. The whole point was to prove that whatever divided them was way, way less powerful than what could bring them together. And this is the crucial part. This wasn't just, oh, you do your thing, I'll do mine. It wasn't passive tolerance. The community actively changed its daily life to accommodate everyone's beliefs. So during Ramadan, the entire community would adjust mealtimes to support their Muslim neighbors. When Hindus observed their own religious fasts, everyone would simplify their meals in solidarity. So you see, differences weren't just accepted, they were genuinely cherished and supported. This life of shared principles even extended to what was on their plates. The diet was pretty austere, vegetarian and completely communal. Everyone ate the exact same simple meals. And this was intentional. It reinforced the ideas of equality and giving up unnecessary material wants. This act of sharing the same simple food was just another thread that wove the whole community together. Okay, so this is where it gets really big. This is where this small-scale experiment starts to have a massive, massive impact. Because the lessons learned on this little 1,100-acre farm, they literally became the blueprint for freeing an entire nation. And the key concept we need to understand here is Swadeshi. It basically means local self-reliance. That whole practice of making their own food, their own clothing, their own tools back at Tolstoy Farm, that was the seed for this incredibly powerful idea. It wasn't just about economics. It was a strategy for independence, a moral call for human dignity, and a direct, powerful challenge to colonial rule.
And you can just draw a straight line from this farm to India's freedom. It's amazing. The lessons from 1910 were applied directly in Gandhi's ashrams back in India. That discipline, that unity that was forged at the farm, that became the moral backbone for the huge mass movements of the 1920s and 30s. Think about it. What started with about 70 people making their own bread, it scaled up to millions of people spinning their own cloth as a powerful act of defiance.
So the big question is, why does this experiment from over a century ago in South Africa still matter to us today? Well, because its lessons are surprisingly, and I mean powerfully, relevant to our world right now. I mean, just think about it. We're in a world grappling with climate change, right? Well, Tolstoy Farm offers a clear model for sustainable, low-impact living. For all the people out there searching for real community, it's a perfect case study in how to live cooperatively. And in our age, which is so full of division, its success with interfaith harmony gives us a timeless template. But maybe the most crucial takeaway is this. The inner strength, the inner discipline they built there, that is what fuels powerful, lasting change in the outer world. And all of this leaves us with one final powerful thought. The story of Tolstoy Farm proves, without a doubt, that a small, dedicated group of people can test out an idea that can literally change the world. So it really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What small, radical experiments in living are happening right now, today, that could become the blueprints for a better world tomorrow?